This is the Africa service of Vatican Radio.
Welcome to our half-hour daily program for Africa.
Stay tuned for our bulletin of such news, which will be followed by a panorama, and then our feature, culture, and society. We shall close with the news for young people. I am Johnny Baptist Thomas. On Thursday, Pope Francis received in the audience members of the Secular Institute of Missionary Priests of the Kingship of Christ on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the foundation of the Institute. The Institute was founded in 1953 by Father Agostino Gemelli in the Italian city of Assisi. It is not an institute of religious people, but of diocesan priests who live in different places in obedience to their diocesan bishops, but who are consecrated by taking the vows of poverty, obedience, chastity, and apostolate. It is found in many countries. In Africa, it has members in Guinea-Conakry, Burundi, and Rwanda. In his speech, Pope Francis expressed gratitude for the work of evangelization the members are doing, which include serving in parishes, promoting peace and reconciliation, and running schools. Centering his address on the value of sexuality in the life and ministry of priests, the Pope explained that sexuality is a dimension of the Church called to serve and bear witness to the kingdom of God in this world. Both lay people and clerics are called to live it and express it, although in different ways. The Institute is building a center for spiritual formation and interreligious dialogue in Burundi in honor of Archbishop Michael Courtney, the former apostolic nuncio to Burundi, who was killed by rebels in that country in 2003 while visiting villages to meet people displaced by civil war and to encourage them to work for peace. Pope Francis appreciated this initiative, reminding the members of the Institute that every baptized person has the mission to promote peace. Earlier on Thursday morning, Pope Francis had received a delegation of a Catholic women's prayer movement known as the Sentinels of the Holy Family, who were accompanied by Princess Sibylla of Luxembourg. The movement was founded 10 years ago in the Belgian city of Brussels, and is gradually spreading in different European countries and beyond Europe. It is a Marian prayer network whose vocation is to present the intentions of the Church and the world to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Deborah Castellano-Luboff reports.
The Holy Father began his address welcoming the delegation and thanking them for working to cultivate an always more fervent prayer to the Blessed Mother. The Pope said he appreciated the simplicity and humility of their movement, which arose spontaneously in common prayer. The commitment required of one who wants to become a sentinel is simple. It might even seem laughable. Recite a decade of the Rosary every day. Very simple. He said it is little in the eyes of men, but it is so much in the eyes of God. God, Pope Francis reassured, loves what is small and makes it bear fruit. The Holy Father observed that their network with only women members follows in the image of the Virgin Mary. The Pope praised their act of praying to Our Lady for her intercession, but also their wish to conform themselves to her motherhood, and to unite themselves to her prayer of intercession as a mother for all the children of the Church and for the world. Thus, whatever their state of life may be, with Mary, he said, you are all mothers, adding, your prayer and your commitment as sentinels are oriented according to Mary's model. The Pope recognized the gaze and care they cast on others and on the realities of the world, with all its tragedies and challenges, and wished that their gaze may always be like that of the Virgin Mary, a mother's gaze. The Pope emphasized the need for tenderness, lamenting how harsh the world is today. Mary, on the other hand, he recalled, was tenderness for Jesus, and he has tenderness for the Church and the world. Living this example of tenderness, he said, is certainly also the vocation of a sentinel, to incarnate in some way Mary's tenderness for the Church and for the world. I'm Deborah Castellano-Luboff.
The president of the Cameroon Catholic Bishops' Conference, Archbishop Andrew Mkeya of Bamenda, has again made an appeal to government and separatist rebels of the Amazonia movement to stop fighting in the northwest and southwest regions of the country and begin a dialogue. He made the call on Tuesday in the town of Marua in the far north region, where the bishops gathered on Sunday for a one-week plenary assembly. The Far North region is also experiencing insecurity caused by Boko Haram Islamic militants who crossed from neighboring Nigeria and attack civilians. Bishop Ntia said insecurity in the three regions has caused many deaths and too much suffering, and called upon the faithful to pray for peace and upon the authorities to carry out their constitutional duty of creating avenues for peace and of protecting people and their property. The Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Kashito in Angola, the Right Reverend Mauricio Kamoto, has called upon Angolans to protect lives not only of their own, but also of others. He made the remark in response to a report released last week by the country's police, which raised an alarm about the increase of deaths arising from road accidents. Speaking from the capital Rwanda at the beginning of this week, Bishop Kamoto expressed concern about irresponsible driving, which he attributed mainly to irresponsible people who don't respect traffic rules and those who don't know how to drive. He called for strict enforcement of the traffic rules by the authorities and for a sense of responsibility on the part of drivers, noting especially that they should increase their knowledge of traffic rules, avoid overspeeding, and not drive when they are drunk. You are tuned to the English Africa service of Vatican Radio.
African News Panorama.
Judges at the International Court of Justice on Thursday opened 2 days of legal arguments in a case filed by South Africa accusing Israel of genocide against Palestinians in its Gaza war. Israel rejects the allegations. Lawyers for South Africa asked judges at the hearings in The Hague, Netherlands, to impose binding preliminary orders on Israel, including an immediate halt to its military campaign in Gaza. Israel has defended its actions, saying it is responding to deadly attacks carried out by Hamas in Israel on the 7th of October. But speaking in court on Thursday, South Africa's Justice Minister Ronald Lamola said no attack can provide justification for or defend breaches of the 1948 Genocide Convention. The International Court of Justice is the UN's top court. Its rulings are theoretically legally binding but are not enforceable. In 2022, the court ordered Russia to immediately suspend military operations in Ukraine, an order that was ignored by Russia. Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has urged people to relocate from towns to villages following the deaths of about 300 people in a cholera outbreak in the Southern African nation. Speaking on Wednesday, on the same day he visited a cholera treatment center in Lusaka, Mr. Hichilema said poor sanitation in some densely populated urban areas was a good breeding ground for cholera. He said to decongest major towns, residents should relocate to rural areas where there was enough space and perfect sanitation. Cholera, a bacterial disease, is spread by contaminated water or food and causes severe dehydration. It can kill within hours if left untreated. Since October last year, more than 7,500 cholera cases have been reported in 8 out of the country's 10 provinces. The reopening of schools has been delayed in Zambia as part of a series of measures to prevent the spread of the disease. Zambia's neighbors, Mozambique and Zimbabwe, have heightened surveillance to prevent cross-border transmission. Zimbabwe has also been battling for months to stem the spread of cholera. Morocco won a vote on Wednesday to lead the United Nations Human Rights Council after a heated showdown with the other African candidate, South Africa. The Moroccan candidate, Ambassador Omar Zneva, received 30 votes, and his South African opponent, Ambassador Mzolisi Nkosi, secured 17 in a secret ballot in Geneva. Prior to the vote, South Africa criticized Morocco's human rights record, saying the kingdom's election as chair of the council would stain the legitimacy of the UN rights body. Morocco is seen by several African countries as an occupying power in Western Sahara. Rabat's candidacy was also opposed by its neighbor, Algeria. The UN Human Rights Council, which convenes several times a year, is the only intergovernmental global body designed to protect human rights worldwide. Rights groups say Morocco's new role should prompt it to safeguard human rights at its highest level. You're tuned to the Africa service of Vatican Radio.